the majority? What would you say to the statement, the government should prohibit some people from making public speeches? In a national opinion poll of young people, 25% agreed. Was that freedom for all? What about the police or FBI may sometimes be right in giving a man the third degree to make him talk? 45% agreed. Well, is that justice for all? Or with exceptions? Liberty and justice for all of us nice people. But what about those other people? Should the Bill of Rights that protects these people protect these? Should people with unpopular ideas who criticize the government be stopped from expressing their opinions? Some would be happy to stop them.
You want them back there out of the shop.
You want them out of the shop.
That's right.
You want to make communists out of them. Do you get that on your finger? That's what I'm American. 21 scared American.
You are now blocking a public thoroughfare. We are not concerned with your...
There may come a point when the government steps in with force.
thoroughfare, namely the sidewalk.
What should that point be?
Keep it going. Take him down the corner.
What is right? What is fair?
Get those lousy Johnny out of here.
Our law, our rules of fairness originated here. The men who wrote our Constitution remembered the tyrannies of other rulers. They remembered what happened to people who had the bad judgment to join the unpopular party, who worshipped in the incorrect manner, who dared to criticize the king. They were determined not to choose some ruler and hand him power that could lead to tyranny. They introduced the idea of making that future ruler responsible to the majority. Representative democracy. But this opened up the possibility of a tyranny by the leaders of the majority. What was to prevent them from using the awesome powers of the new federal government to crush the opposition? That government of the majority could pass laws by which people disappeared without a fair trial. It could pass laws making it a crime to criticize the government, laws to silence opposition and perpetuate itself in power. In fear of this, leaders in the states demanded a Bill of Rights, laws to guarantee fundamental human rights. The First Amendment says in part, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble. Do these freedoms affect your life? How much freedom of speech should there be in high school? 2 years after graduating, 3 students returned to discuss a bitter dispute that once swept this high school. The school paper had run an editorial and cartoon accusing students who protested the Vietnam War of being chicken.
We were then given permission to write a reply article. The following day we submitted it to the faculty advisor and to the student editor and were given approval.
But the article was deleted by the principal.
Because he didn't feel that controversial issues could be handled by the student body and should not be expressed in the student newspaper.
They're told to turn off their minds except for what's taught to them, and they can think along certain lines, but that's as far as it goes.
I was president of the student council, which is the representative body of the students. And the the fellows who started the article and had it censored felt that they needed to bring this to the attention of the students. And one of them, after some juggling so that we could put him onto an agenda which also had to be approved by the administration, made a motion to censure the administration, which was carried. And that's when the trouble really began. The student was suspended.
I can see where the administration would worry, however, when controversial issues are raised, but I would think that if both sides are given, equal voice, then there's no real danger that the school will appear to be taking a partisan stand on it.
We didn't have a means of doing it through our own paper. Our letters were censored. Our articles were censored. Our speech was censored. I couldn't make a speech in student council. The meeting was dismissed on me. Our motions were censored. The whole thing was censored, and no recourse. We were juveniles, and they were within their rights, except, whatever happened to the Constitution?
What might happen when a government does this to adults? When students disagree with the principal's authority, how can differences be resolved? What rights should students have? The honored practice of torture to make people confess was remembered only too well by the men who wrote our Constitution. They remembered when people disappeared into jails and never came to trial. When the king's soldiers forcibly entered homes to search for evidence on mere suspicion. When punishments were cruel and excessive. How could the colonists curb the fearsome power of government? The First Amendment was one great protection. The other major protection was contained in a number of amendments guaranteeing fair treatment for people suspected of breaking a law. The Fourth Amendment. The Fifth. Again the Fifth. The Sixth. The Sixth. The Eighth. These rights are a bill of limitations on the power of government. Sometimes we may take these protections for granted, but how would you feel if there were no Bill of Rights? In Arizona in 1964, and in most other states, the Bill of Rights didn't apply if you were a juvenile. A train of events started in this town and ended in the Supreme Court. A woman had been getting offensive phone calls. One was traced to a trailer where 15-year-old Jerry Galt lived with his family. His friend Ronnie had left before the sheriff arrived.
20 First Street Garden needs assistance.
Okay, Jerry.
What'd I do? I didn't do anything.
They didn't have a warrant or anything for him. He should have said that I was under arrest and what I was under arrest for. He didn't tell me that I could remain silent if I wanted to, or I could have my attorney present. He just told me that his boss wanted to see me. So I told him that Ronnie had been in there and used the phone. Then they brought him in and he blamed it all on me. Then they took us up to the detention home.
At the detention home, Jerry was questioned without being told of his right to remain silent. No notice was given of the charges against him. Under juvenile law, there was a hearing before a judge, rather than a trial, which would have been his right if he had been an adult. Jerry and his family were given no notice of his right to have an attorney. There was no one to make a record of testimony. The woman who complained about the phone call didn't appear to be questioned. No witnesses, no cross-examination, no appeal. The decision of the judge was final.
When I sent Gerald to the industrial school, it's my hope that he would see that he'd have to become amenable to discipline. It was quite evident that he was not getting it at home.
Right, left. Hey, tail, head, hut. Right, hey. Flag salute. Yes, sir.
In the state school for boys, Jerry spent 6 months of a term that could have lasted 6 years. Maximum sentence for an adult, $50 or 60 days. Jerry and his family took the case to the Supreme Court, where they argued that Jerry should have had the protections of the Bill of Rights. The state of Arizona argued that the Bill of Rights should not apply to juveniles, that it would hamper the state in doing what was best for Jerry. What do you think? The question of fair treatment isn't an easy one. The jails are crowded. Angry critics of the government sit down in civil disobedience. A frustrated, oppressed minority boils over in violence. What is the solution? More police power? Will the reaction to more police power be even more violence? Any society to survive must maintain order. But in our society, individuals have rights, even accused individuals. Many believe that individual rights should be curtailed if it will help keep order.
And I don't think it's possible to design a system which can eliminate all abuses. So we just have to look at what is in the best interest for the greater number of people in the society.
But other people ask, when we allow abuses, doesn't that destroy faith in the law? Or they say, is it fair to have two standards of law enforcement?
As I said before, the police, a certain segment of the police department is racist. They're racist. Outright. They don't, they actually think that black people are inferior. They think that they can do these, they know that they can do these things and get away with it. That they seem to have this unquestioned authority. Who's going to question them? Who is going to investigate them? There's no one to investigate them, so they do what they please.
And when I got to court, the astonishing thing about it, the officer wasn't there. I showed my bruises to the judge and the medical report. He threw the case out of court and told me not to enter his courtroom again. So what do? Sue the city or the state and be tied up for years and years and never reach any results?
Many people, including the police, feel that the courts interpret the Bill of Rights to give too much weight to the rights of the individual.
And from that standpoint, I think the Supreme Court, in its efforts to provide the epitome of safety for every individual, is laudable, but in its practical impact breeds disrespect and contempt for the legal process, because it doesn't pass without notice that every year hundreds and hundreds of very, very guilty defendants go free by reason of the many restrictions that the court has in recent years placed on both the prosecutors and the police in their efforts to bring order into our cities.
Many others feel this argument misses the point.
I often wonder at those who, troubled by crime and increased disrespect for law in the United States, hold the Supreme Court of the United States responsible for this crime or increased crime and disrespect for law. I wonder whether they would really prefer a society in which the police could regularly coerce confessions from individuals, in which the police could with impunity violate the provisions of the Fourth Amendment with respect to unreasonable searches and seizures, in which there were no constitutional limitations at all upon electronic eavesdropping. I wonder if they would really prefer a society in which a man who could afford an attorney and who wished to consult with that attorney could be denied the opportunity by the police to do so.
The people must, in the final analysis, suffer for the inabilities of the police to, number one, put lawbreakers behind bars, and number two, deter the criminal from criminal conduct. And in this respect, it isn't a conflict between the courts and the police as to how a job may be done. It is essentially a matter of interfering with a job that society wants done.
What's really necessary in the United States, if we're to decrease the amount of crime, if we're to increase the respect for law, is to eradicate the causes of crime. And nothing increases crime so much as deep frustration. And nothing increases frustration so much as slums and poor quality education. If we're going to attack these problems where we must attack them, we don't attack the court. What we do is we attack the real causes, and those relate to the quality of life in the United States.
And I believe that
This is not a casual debate. On its outcome may depend the kind of society that all of us will be living in soon. Greatly increased police power can keep law and order in society by denying rights to the individual. Can we keep order and still protect these rights?